Through the Tunnel, a DMT trip report by Jack the Psychonaut on Erowid.org in 2018. At 1:15 a.m, Wednesday, June 15th, I experienced a journey through the unexplainable, in which I'm going to attempt to explain. Setting: the couch in my living room with a fuzzy blanket. Nighttime, all the lights off, by myself. Preparation: I sprinkled a small layer of parsley into my glass bowl, followed by a pinch of a rather large amount of DMT, followed by another layer of parsley, making a tasty parsley/DMT sandwich. Author estimates 60 milligrams was used during the entirety of this experience. The journey: I tapped the glass bowl of my pipe with the chamber of a bic, which was followed by a flick and a spark of flint. I observed the intense flame, and thought about all the other humans before me who have done the same for millions of years. I then came back to the task at hand, smoking the DMT I had in my left hand. I positioned the flame just above the herb and inhaled slowly, making sure not to scorch the small but potent layer of DMT below. I felt the burning of my throat as the smoke flowed in, which had an odd chemically taste, despite my extraction being very pure. I could not inhale any more of the foul smoke without failure, so I removed the pipe away from me. The need to exhale the hit was great, and the subtle restrained coughs were intense, but I managed to keep it in for about 10 seconds. I took one more hit quickly afterwards. I was suddenly filled with this feeling of whooshing, or as if something were being squeezed out of me. I managed to set the pipe down on the ground next to my couch before I was gone. The last thing I saw before I shut my eyes was the starry sky and the beautiful bright moon out of the large window to my right. The visuals began. My breathing became heavy. I was laying on the ground and could see the night sky above me. Large beings were circled around me, observing me as if I had fallen right out of the sky. They all bent over me, blocking my view of the sky. Suddenly, they began to circle around me, raised their arms, and the next thing I knew, I was trapped in a colourful tunnel. I was overwhelmed by what was happening. The tunnel began projecting me through it, and I had no idea where I was going or if this tunnel ever ended. Two-dimensional beings were dancing on the walls of the tunnel. I was frightened and was unsure whether they were kind beings or not, but I kept telling myself, it's only 10 minutes, you will come down, you will be sober again, just go with it. Once that stuck in my head, I realised the tunnel had an end, and I was nearing it, but my trip was starting to fade. I began coming back to my body, and the tunnel was leaving slowly. I opened my eyes. My occipital perception was a little altered still. I came back to myself, re-centered in order to go back, grabbed the pipe, and took a monstrous hit. Didn't bother to set the pipe down. I closed my eyes once again. I was thrown back into the tunnel, but this one was slightly different. It was as if the artist Alex Gray had painted the inside of this tunnel for me. I remembered the end of the last tunnel. This one too had an end. I indubitably reached the end, when I arrived at a dock. But instead of boats, there were large grey spherical objects floating on fog. I observed one departing, but the fog was thick and I could not see past the dock to where it was going. In front of me was one of the spheres. I floated towards it and climbed in, to find a man dressed as an elevator attendant, sitting cross-legged. The inside of the sphere was large and grey. I thought to myself, I need to get some colour in here. I could not communicate with the man, but he knew all the questions I have, everything I knew, and everything I would ever be. He communicated to me something along the lines of, you may observe, but you may not participate. Your time will come. I comprehended his message. I tried to observe as much as possible so I could analyse everything when I came back to my world. The ball faded. The man looked me in the eyes, but I could barely see him. I opened my eyes and exhaled involuntarily. When I exhaled, I felt as if something left me. I looked around and grinned. I could not be any more happy to be back in my cosy living room. I laid there for what I thought was an eternity. I checked my phone to see the time. It read 1:30 a.m. 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes had passed since I inhaled the DMT. Time must be non-existent in the world I was in. I sat up and saw my dog laying down across the room. I walked over to him and sat down petting his golden fur. He is a golden retriever and a great dog. I then decided to go on my deck and lay down while looking at the sky with my fuzzy blanket. I laid there for a good amount of time, looking at the view I saw right before I began my adventure. Eventually, I came back inside to begin writing this trip report. Putting the pieces together. People say DMT is the tool used for the entering and exiting of the soul from a body. I believe the tunnel was me exiting my body, which is why it was so difficult. I wasn't ready to let go of myself, going to the non-material world. I believe the dock is where souls come to go to their next destination, but I do not know where that is. The reason I could not depart from the dock is because I was still alive. I didn't arrive from death and pineal gland DMT secretions. I arrived from smoking DMT from a living body. The dock decides where one goes. Thanks for listening to this trip report. The link to the original report will be in the description. There'll also be a link to my Fiverr if you would like to hire me for any voiceover work. And there'll also be a link to a new Discord server I've made for the channel if you'd like to join and chat with similar people. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.